Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Educating people about cancer is one of the many roles of the Vermont Cancer Center of UVM and Fletcher Allen. Cancer education, research, and increased screening are among the reasons why more Americans are surviving cancer. Today, as part of our ongoing partnership with the center, we're going to focus on an upcoming statewide breast cancer education conference. This is the 17th annual Breast Cancer Conference. It is Friday, October 10th at the Sheridan Conference Center in South Burlington. We'll provide the contact and registration information during today's program. But first, we're going to meet the co-chairs of this year's conference. Joining me are Dr. Patty O'Brien and Kathy McBeth. Dr. O'Brien specializes in lymphedema and long-term medical needs of cancer survivors, and Kathy McBeth is a licensed psychologist and the coordinator of the Cancer Patient Support Program. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Now, Patty, this is an annual conference, as we mentioned, in its 17th year. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting to just keep it going.
Why is it important to have this conference every year?
Because unfortunately, every year, 300 to 400 families in our area are going to be hit with a new diagnosis of cancer. And so not only is that man or woman newly diagnosed and they have lots of questions, but their family has lots of questions, and everybody who loves them is touched by their illness. And then another whole group of people are going to get callbacks on their mammograms or are going to have biopsies that are negative, and they need to understand what does that mean. And so it's really a public health issue that there's a lot of things changing in, and those women who were newly diagnosed last year, they had a set of questions for your first year with cancer, but now they're second-year survivors, and now they have a whole series of questions that they didn't have last year, but now they've moved into survivorship, and now they do have. So we have people who are 30 years out and are still learning about breast cancer, and we have people who, got diagnosed the week before the conference.
And so more women are surviving breast cancer than a decade ago.
Absolutely. The vast majority of women are going to do extremely well, that they will, 75% of the women are going to be cured. Even the women who are not cured are going to go on to have a much longer life, and it's going to be more of a chronic disease for them. And frankly, more of them will die of heart disease than will die of breast cancer, which is why we always have talks about cardiac disease.
Right.
You gotta take care of your heart too.
Kathy, tell us about the theme of this year's conference.
So the theme is choices and voices, and I think it's really wonderful to consider how people want to be part of their treatment team. They want to consider themselves as informed consumers. And so what happens is, for me, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I often have people come into my room and they'll say to me, I don't even know what questions to ask. And I think that's one of the things that this conference gives us. There's over 80 workshops that are going on in one day. And so there are so many choices for individuals in terms of what they want to learn, what they can gather from that information. They're going to get to talk to some of the experts in the field of breast cancer and the field of women's health. And so that's a really essential piece. And how do they sort of ask those questions when they don't have the information? And too many people will go on the websites and feel pretty overwhelmed. And in this case, they can do things on a one-on-one basis. And I think it's really been beneficial.
Maybe we can go through some of the important choices.
Sure.
I think it starts with lifestyle choices to decrease the risk.
Yeah. So lifestyle choices, some of the things that we think about, there's going to be some cooking workshops all day long. And those cooking workshops are excellent because this is a gentleman, Curtis Hem, who's a wonderful chef, and he comes in and he simplifies good cooking and ways to live healthily, but also things like yoga, and so that people can incorporate exercise, that kind of exercise. There's a Pilates class so people can do more intense exercises. So there's going to be a lot of different choices as far as that's concerned. Also, even addressing the emotional experience. As a psychologist, I have that bias, and so so the idea of what the emotional experience is like. For me, I'm giving a talk this time on caregivers and the roles for caregivers and sort of those tough conversations that happen within those things. So there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful conference piece information that's going to be happening.
And so I think you mentioned an interesting point. You mentioned caregivers. This isn't just for women who have had or have cancer. It's for caregivers. It's for family members. It's for anybody who even has any questions.
Right. This is a public, free conference. People can come in for an hour and just go through the exhibit hall. It's an all-day event. Or they can sign up ahead of time and sign up for very specific workshops. And they don't have to go to anything specifically on cancer. They can just learn about healthy lifestyle. And so it's really a public conference open to anyone who wants to learn more about women's health.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Let's take a moment to highlight some of the details of the conference. It is Friday, October 10th at the Sheridan Conference Center in South Burlington. There are different sessions and speakers, as we've been talking about. It all starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. There is no cost for the conference. Walk-ins are welcome, but you can pre-register by going to www.vermontcancer.org. You can also pre-register by phone by calling 802-656-2292. And if you have any questions, you can email Charles Brooks. His email address is on the screen. And once again, the website for more information and pre-registration is vermontcancer.org. Now, Kathy, in preparing for this program, it was interesting to learn that your initial involvement with the conference several years ago was as an attendee. And from that perspective, what can you tell us?
Oh, well, you know, it was interesting. I think I felt, as an attendee, I felt like I wanted to learn it all. I wanted to go to every single thing. And you know, and I had to pick and choose. And that was an important piece. I will say that one of the best things that happens at the conference, and I witness it every year, is how much people network with one another. You know, they get a chance to, all of a sudden, they're sitting next to someone. And, you know, people think of breast cancer, it's all just breast cancer. Well, everybody's experience is different, you know, and so they have an opportunity to talk about what their experiences are. Patty and the group have put together coffee chats all day long. And those things, those informal chats, have been some of the best in terms of people giving opportunities to talk about what's worked for them, or maybe what hasn't worked for them as well. So as an attendee, there was and you know, actually, Judy, even though I present, I always go to the conference as well. so I haven't stopped being that person, you know. I'm still the fly on the wall. I still want to learn. I'm a sponge all the time. Yeah.
Now, you're both cancer survivors. Kathy, you're a two-time survivor. And from your perspective as survivors, why is it important to attend this conference?
Just the camaraderie of the other women and people that you meet there. It's fun to just get together with other people that you may have gone through treatment with years ago, and you know, you see them again, and now everybody's got their hair back and are out doing, you know, different things in their life, and you catch up with them. It's very much a celebration of life also. But people, as they get back into their life after treatment for cancer, they do come up with different issues. So 5 years out from cancer, you have a very different set of issues than you had your first year out from cancer. And there's fortunately constantly changing recommendations on medications, on lifestyle, on exercise, and different programs to talk about. So people really can network and learn a lot, whatever stage they're at.
Sounds like being a survivor is a full-time job.
Yeah.
It can be. It can be. I know for me, as a survivor, when I was first diagnosed, I really wanted to meet somebody who had gone through treatment and were sort of able to stand and talk about it, you know, and that's this opportunity, because as Patty said, there might be somebody that's sitting next to you that went through treatment 30 years ago, and there might be somebody who's just starting. So it's that opportunity as well that's really important. You know, as somebody who's gone through cancer, you often feel very alone, and this is not, you don't feel alone. You feel like you walk into especially in the health fair, you walk in and you see all those faces and all those people, and they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves, and you're thinking, how can that be? So that's a beautiful thing.
Right. Now, what are some of the key sessions of this year's conference that you want to highlight?
Well, there's some new sessions. There's a series of sessions about supporting family members, either as caregivers or one of the sessions that we're now adding extra sessions because it was filling up so quickly, was child therapists talking with parents about how to talk to their children about their cancer. I know when I was diagnosed, that was a very important issue for me. My children were really young, and I was really afraid of how my cancer would impact their lives. And so there will be child therapists there who will be talking with young parents about how do you talk to your families. And as an old long-term survivor, I can say, hey, you know, I went through this and my kids came out fine. You know, I mean, you know, there's just a lot of giving and sharing. There's burlesque has been added this year, so
Well,
yes, with clothes on. There's no stripping.
glad you clarified that. It's not that kind of show.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, there's always workshops on sexuality after cancer, everything from, you know, libido to sex toys to whatever you need. But
It's not that kind of show.
I have to control her
these-
all the time.
But these are the kinds of questions that a lot of people have. And who do you ask?
Right.
Oh,
You can ask your
absolutely.
mother.
Yeah. It is. It's that kind of opportunity, you know, lots of times to be able to feel like this can be something that if I have that question, there could easily be someone next door to me that can say that answer. Not next door to me, but in the conference next to me that can give me the answer. So that's helpful. Yeah.
But the agenda has places on it where it's quite open. When you go into this room, that's what they're going to be talking about. So if you don't want to hear it, don't go there.
And there's some, you know, some less risque things
Right.
happening as well. I mean, there's an emphasis on nature, which I thought was really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And the importance of even just being outside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And taking walks. There's also going to be a panel on integrative medicine, which I think is really useful because the whole mind-body medicine idea and how to incorporate that into your treatment and talking to your provider about how to use that, like if you wanted to utilize acupuncture and if you wanted to talk about naturopath and other things, you know, what would be the way to communicate that? So sort of, first of all, understanding what those things all mean and how they relate to breast cancer or cancer in general, and then also to be able to talk to your doctor afterwards and say, well, I was thinking of possibly utilizing acupuncture for nausea. What's your suggestions there? And they can send you to providers. So that's really useful.
What are some of the other sort of newer things that are going to be at the conference, like, you know, the idea of acupuncture?
Yeah, an integrative method. There's also going to be a Pilates group, which I thought was really interesting. We've done yoga a lot in the conference for years, and people love it. But I think the Pilates, you know, sort of realizing that there's you know, there's a lot of emphasis on well-being, physical well-being post-treatment. Lots of times people go through this diagnosis and automatically think that their life is going to change forever. Well, it will change, but we also have to think about how do we get back to our life.
And our keynote speaker is Dr. Tom Ahern, and he's going to be talking about phthalates in the environment and the relationship between chemicals in our environment and incidences of changes in women's health. And so there are multiple lectures about environment and women's health. And that's just a big question all women want information on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And once again, we should emphasize this isn't just for people who have cancer or survived cancer.
Right.
It's for friends, family, anybody who's just interested.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's free.
And it's free.
And it's free. It's
And
free.
it's October 10th.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, too, about, I want to mention a couple of the other conferences, some of the topics. Just, I mean, there really is something for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there's even conversations about spirituality. For some people, that's a big way to incorporate their well-being. So there's talks about that as well. Writing, you know, how to incorporate journaling and writing into what you do on a daily basis. That's a very helpful piece.
Because there are a lot of different things that
Yeah.
can be very helpful that maybe people don't really know about.
Right. Right. But even some of the very significant medical talks, like understanding deep vein thrombosis and what does that do in terms of your health and well-being. I can remember going to a conference one time. I would suggest that if someone goes and to listen to about a topic that maybe they would never have thought about before. I went to a conference once, and the conference was about a dentist and what his role was in cancer and post-cancer treatment. And I remember thinking that was hugely beneficial. And so just go with something that you don't know.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah.
The conference is October 10th. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.